when Vikramaditya rescued his kingdom from a powerful tantric. Have you ever heard of a king so fearless that he didn't even hesitate to confront a tantric whose powers were feared across lands? Could bravery and wit truly outshine the darkest magic? Today, let's journey into the heart of ancient India and witness the unmatched wisdom of King Vikramaditya. In the ancient kingdom of Ujjain, King Vikramaditya was loved by his people for his wisdom, bravery, and compassion. His rule was so just that people from distant lands traveled to Ujjain not just to see the beauty of the city, but to catch a glimpse of the legendary king who ruled it. His court was filled with ministers, scholars, poets, and warriors who all revered him as much for his fairness as for his sharp mind. But no kingdom is free from challenges, and no ruler, however wise, escapes moments of testing. One fateful night, as the full moon cast its silvery light over Ujjain, whispers began to fill the air. A powerful tantric, Rudraksha Baba, had appeared at the edge of the kingdom. No one knew from where he came, but his reputation had arrived long before him. Tales of his power spread like wildfire. He could control the winds, curse crops, bend the will of men, and even raise the dead. The villagers swore that when he chanted, strange shadows would dance around him, and the flames of his rituals would turn blue. In mere days, fear spread like a plague. Farmers stopped going to their fields, merchants closed their shops, and even soldiers started to whisper about strange sightings at night. Families began leaving offerings of food and valuables at the outskirts of the jungle, hoping to appease the tantric and keep his wrath at bay. Word finally reached the king's court, and though the ministers were filled with dread, Vikramaditya listened calmly. After a long silence, he stood up and declared, "A king must protect his people, not only from harm, but from fear itself. I will go and meet this Rudraksha Baba myself." The court fell silent. His ministers and generals tried to dissuade him, warning of the tantric's dark powers. But Vikramaditya only smiled. "True power is in facing one's fear," he said. "If I do not have the courage to meet a mere man, how can I call myself a protector?" Dressed in simple attire, without a single guard by his side, Vikramaditya set out for the tantric's temple. It was deep in the jungle, surrounded by towering trees, where the air was thick with the scent of incense and eerie silence. Finally, he came upon a small clearing where a temple stood, old and covered with creepers, with skulls lined at its entrance. Sitting cross-legged, his eyes closed and chanting, was Rudraksha Baba. His hair was wild, his robes a deep red, and his fingers clutched a rosary made of human bones. The king approached, his steps steady, his face calm. The tantric's chanting stopped, and his eyes opened slowly, piercing and dark as a stormy night. He looked at Vikramaditya, and a smile crept across his face. "So the mighty king of Ujjain comes to me unarmed, without an army, as if he were an ordinary man. Tell me, O king, do you not fear me?" Vikramaditya met his gaze and replied, "Fear comes from ignorance, Baba. I come to know you, not to fear you. You have power, but so do I, and I am here to protect my people from whatever may harm them." Rudraksha Baba's laughter echoed through the forest, a chilling sound that made even the bravest among them shudder. "Very well, wise king. But let me see if your wisdom can match my power. I shall give you 3 challenges. If you succeed, I will leave Ujjain forever. But if you fail, you will bow to me, and your kingdom will be mine." Vikramaditya accepted with a nod, knowing that his wit would be his true weapon in this battle. Rudraksha Baba looked at him with a glint of amusement in his eyes and pulled out a handful of ash from a small pouch. He held it out and said, "Find 3 grains of rice hidden in this ash by the time the moon rises." Vikramaditya took a moment to observe the ash and then looked around thoughtfully. As he wandered, he noticed a young village boy sitting nearby with a pet pigeon on his shoulder. Smiling, Vikramaditya approached the boy and asked, "Will your pigeon help me find something important?" The boy, proud of his bird's abilities, nodded enthusiastically. The pigeon, trained to peck at grains, quickly found the 3 grains of rice hidden in the ash. Vikramaditya returned with them in hand, his face calm as ever. Rudraksha Baba's laughter echoed through the forest, a chilling sound that made even the bravest among them shudder. "Very well, wise king, but let me see if your wisdom can match my power. I shall give you 3 challenges. If you succeed, I will leave Ujjain forever. But if you fail, you will bow to me, and your kingdom will be mine." A murmur went through the crowd of villagers who had gathered, wondering how one could fill a pot with something as intangible as wisdom. Vikramaditya took the pot, walked calmly to the riverbank, and filled it with water. He then plucked a single lotus petal, placed it on the surface of the water, and returned it to the Tantrik. "This pot," Vikramaditya said, "holds wisdom. Just as a wise soul floats above the world's desires, this lotus petal floats calmly on the water, untouched by the depths below." Rudraksha Baba's eyes flashed with anger. He knew that Vikramaditya had bested him once again, but he was determined to win. For his final task, he leaned close to the king and hissed, "Bring me something that no man has ever seen, touched or heard." The crowd held its breath, for surely this was an impossible challenge. How could anyone bring something that had no form, no sound, and no substance? Vikramaditya stood silent, lost in thought. After a moment, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small copper coin. Holding it up, he placed it into the Tantrik's hand with a calm, confident smile. Rudraksha Baba frowned. "What is this?" he demanded. "Are you mocking me?" The king replied with a wry smile. "This coin holds something no man has ever seen, touched or heard. Your defeat." The crowd, silent until now, burst into laughter and applause. Rudraksha Baba's face turned red with rage, but he knew he had been beaten at his own game. With a furious scowl, he muttered a dark incantation, and in a swirl of smoke, he vanished into the depths of the forest, never to be seen in Ujjain again. Vikramaditya returned to his palace that night, greeted by the cheers and joy of his people. The fear that had gripped Ujjain was lifted, and once again, the kingdom flourished under his wise rule. And as for Rudraksha Baba, his story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of how even the darkest magic could not stand against the light of wisdom and courage. One night, as the festival culminated in fireworks and celebrations, the sky darkened ominously. The people of Ujjain noticed that the air grew heavy, and a chill swept through the festivities. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and from the shadows emerged Rudraksha Baba, flanked by his followers. "Foolish king, did you think you could defeat me and bring peace to your kingdom? I have returned, and this time, I will not be bested so easily," he thundered, his voice echoing through the night. The celebrations came to an abrupt halt, and fear gripped the hearts of the people once again. Vikramaditya, however, stood tall, refusing to show any sign of fear. "You may have come back, Baba, but this time, you face not just me, but a kingdom united in courage and strength," he declared, his voice strong and unwavering. Rudraksha Baba's laughter echoed through the air, dark and menacing. "Your courage is meaningless against my power." He raised his arms, and dark clouds began to swirl overhead, lightning crackling dangerously, as he prepared to unleash chaos upon Ujjain. But Vikramaditya was not without his own resources. Remembering the lessons of courage and wisdom he had imparted to his people during the contests, he called upon them to stand with him. "Together, we will show him that fear cannot rule us," he shouted. The people rallied around their king, and Vikramaditya led them in a chant that echoed with the memories of their victories, their unity, and the light of wisdom. As their voices rose, a brilliant light surrounded them, pushing back the darkness that Rudraksha Baba sought to unleash. Realizing he was losing control, the Tantrik grew frantic, his spells faltering under the combined will of the united kingdom. In a final act of desperation, he directed his dark energy toward Vikramaditya, attempting to ensnare him in a web of fear. But the king stood firm, recalling the 3 challenges he had overcome and drawing strength from the faith his people had in him. With a wave of his hand, Vikramaditya conjured a protective shield, reflecting Rudraksha Baba's dark magic back upon him. The Tantrik screamed in fury as the very powers he wielded turned against him, and with a final surge of light, he was consumed by his own darkness, banished forever from the realm. The crowd erupted in cheers, their joy resounding through the kingdom. Vikramaditya had not only protected Ujjain from the Tantrik's wrath, but had also solidified the bond between himself and his people. They had faced the darkness together, proving that true strength lies in unity, courage, and unwavering faith in one another. As the night sky cleared and stars twinkled brightly overhead, Vikramaditya addressed his people. "Let this be a lesson to us all," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "Fear is a shadow that cannot withstand the light of unity and courage. We are stronger together, and as long as we stand as one, no darkness can ever overcome us." From that day on, Ujjain flourished as a kingdom known not only for its bravery but for its spirit of togetherness. Vikramaditya continued to hold contests and festivals, ensuring that the bond between him and his people remained strong. The stories of their triumph over fear and darkness became part of their heritage, passed down through generations, reminding them that courage, wisdom, and unity could conquer any challenge that lay ahead.